when you see a shadow, we're mostly taught that a shadow is black, but seeing it as a color, that's heaven.
So, welcome to This Is Hard. First of all, I've been holding this. It's not a joke, but it's just something that I was like, Terrance Osborne is probably one of the coolest names I've heard.
Oh,
it's anytime I say it, I'm like, this dude's got like I don't know, man. Like you didn't have problems with girlfriends back in the day. Maybe you got picked on on all the sports teams. Nah, you got the coolest name, man.
So
Terrance
cool.
Osborne just sounds like an artistic name.
It does.
Thanks,
So,
man. Yeah, I appreciate that.
we're thankful that you're doing this interview with us. Welcome to This Is Hard. And
thank you for having us here at your art gallery.
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
Oh yeah. My pleasure.
Yes.
super nice.
Yeah.
So,
I've never been anywhere nicer. But
not for a podcast. For sure.
yeah. So let's start with why art, because I mean, obviously, it's so much of your life now.
Yeah. So why art? Well, my mom did art as a hobby when I was a kid. So, and my oldest brother and my stepfather really, but mostly I'd say my mom, right?
Right.
Because my mom would do this artwork. She worked with pastels, so it was always serene things like flowers and beach scenes and things like nature sort of things. And she would put it on her bedroom wall. And there was a certain time during the day, in the evening, when the sun would hit the wall. Now, these are pastels, so they're usually subtle and softer.
Right.
But the sun would just make them electric. And I was like, whoa, that left a big impression on me.
Yeah.
And I think it's one of the reasons why I enjoy color so much.
Makes sense.
So, yeah. And then, so that I started in the 5th grade, I started drawing these muscle men. And I hadn't really considered myself an artist or anything. So I met these two guys they were twins. Yarrow and Ciro were their names,
All right?
And Yarrow could draw muscle men like I'd never seen. And then Ciro could draw cars like I'd never seen. So I'm like, I'm hanging with these dudes. I'm like, so I learned everything that they were doing, right?
Mm-hmm. Right.
Along with my mom at home, learning what she was doing. And I was a gymnast at the time, so I didn't think I'd be an artist. I wasn't looking to do that. Mm-hmm. But art moved to the forefront, and then I ended up in middle school, going to NOCA. Right?
Okay.
I started winning art contests in the school. And look, I was using it as like a way to get out of class, because teachers would be like, hey, do you have that student, Terrance?
Yeah.
I need him to do my bulletin board. I'm like,
Absolutely.
oh, yeah, really? Okay, cool. So I'm going, and I get to skip a class by doing a bulletin board. Sometimes a half a day. I knew I wasn't legal, but that's what they did.
Right.
Our privilege.
Yeah, right. And then I started entering art contests, school-wide art contests, winning those, and city-wide art contests. My artwork ended up on buses in the city because I won some contests.
How old were you when this was happening?
This was still middle school. So this was 8th grade, 9th grade. My middle school had 9th grade as well.
Okay.
Gotcha.
And then I went to NOCA my 10th grade year. Of course, we know NOCA is New Orleans Center for Creative Arts.
Mm-hmm.
All the people who are in the arts and have some amount of success probably went to NOCA.
Right.
Yeah. Harry Connick and Trevor Shorty, John Batiste,
Rocky.
No, Rocky. Dummy.
But I'm happy to be in that. I'm proud of NOCA.
Absolutely.
I've heard great things.
Yeah, right?
For sure.
So then while I was at NOCA, a friend of mine was like, hey, I want to take you to this art gallery, and I want you to meet this artist. I'd never met an artist who had an art gallery, so like a practicing professional artist, right? And so I walk into this gallery, and it's as colorful as this one is right now, right?
Right.
And so I'm looking around a little bit, and then this guy comes out the back, and he's like, "Hey," and he introduced himself to me, and he looked familiar, right? And he was like, "Oh, so you're an artist?" So he sat me down and gave me this thick book that was like, you know, those family albums that where you pull up the plastic to put the to put the photos in it. He had articles, newspaper articles, magazine articles, and also I'm flipping through. And I'm like, oh, I remember reading this article, and I was like, oh, that's the guy that right.
Oh,
so
wow.
So when I looked at him and that book, and I was like, that's what I want. I before that I wasn't interested in a gallery, but seeing, you know how they say you don't realize it until you're able to see it. Right. So fast forward, here we are. We have the gallery. So I became Richard Thomas's assistant at that point, his apprentice, and from that point on, he gave me paintbrush and canvas and all that. My first paintbrush, canvas, and paint. And he told me, okay, if you sell a piece, I want you to take that money and buy more art supplies. I'm gonna front you right here. Right. And that was it.
Dang.
I started buying art supplies and making
Started
more
to
art.
train, huh?
Yeah,
he was teaching you to invest in yourself, basically.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
right,
in your
yeah.
dream. So
Yeah,
when you were experiencing this at that age, and you were talking about seeing the gallery, were you putting those thoughts in your head at that time, like, this is where I want to go in my life, like I want to have a gallery?
Yeah, I mean, so you know, this is a black man, right? So I'm looking at him and I see myself, right? Because I didn't know it was possible. I had never been to an art gallery where it was that artist's gallery only, and he was a black man. You know, I've seen maybe some black artists who had their artwork, you know, speckled about in galleries, but never an entire gallery. You know, so that left a big impression on me. I was like, I immediately thought, that's what I want.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially in a city like New Orleans where it could be hard to stand out because there is so much art here and culture, and but seeing that your gallery stands out even on top of that with all I mean, once you pass by, I didn't know who you were at that time, and I was like, how do I not know this? Like, how have I never seen something so? This is like it's like one of those things that you see on social media, and you're like, I gotta go there. Like, you know, that's how it was set up. So it looks like you've taken some of that inspiration early on to like build this like fairy tale you live in.
Yeah. I mean, that's what it's like too. I think that as artists, or really. Okay, so the only thing that separates, like, you're not an artist, right?
No.
You said, yeah.
I mean, I wouldn't say I'm an
You
artist.
are to a degree?
No.
Somewhat, okay.
I mean, enough to...
It depends on what you consider art, right?
Right.
I mean,
Yeah.
Right.
Well, see, and that's kind of what I mean. It's like the only difference that separates us is that I've developed the motor skills to interpret my perceptions.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Where you might see the art, because the first thing if you walk up to a beautiful painting, you're like, like how did the artist do that? Like, that's one of the first questions you ask is how.
Right.
And there's the reason why you're asking how, and this may seem like a stretch, but the reason why you're asking is because you know that artist is human. You're human, and you want to know how they did that.
Yeah.
Right.
Because if I disappeared right here and then reappeared over there, your first question would be like, how?
Right.
Because same reason. So a little part of you knows that it's attainable.
Especially because it's right in front of you.
Yeah, right, yeah.
I do
and a human did it.
I think
right?
that there's a little bit
Absolutely.
of nuance to it though, because I think so. I grew up, singing at church, for example, and I could tell when somebody could be trained to like hold a note, and then when somebody was just naturally gifted at singing. So although your art, and you're saying you have the motor skills, I'm sure you've seen it where somebody can draw something and replicate a drawing, but they can't create that drawing in their own way. They can only replicate things. So as far as your art, do you feel like your art is more expressive in that way, where you're creating all of these ideas from nothing, or you feel like you already have some kind of structure there?
Yeah, so I think I know where you're leading with that. So there is something that artists have, especially when they're passionate. Like, you can tell the difference between an artist who mimics what they see versus an artist who creates what they see or creates what they want either. Right. So at some point, what you do is you have reference, right? You collect, right? You're always, as an artist, you're always looking at, oh, this tree, I like that reddish color on the tree. This guy's beard has a similar red color, right? I like how this person's clothing mimics their house. I can see how they would live in that house, right? So you're always measuring and doing all of these, like,
Assessments.
Assessments, and you're collecting is what you're doing.
Right.
And after a while it snowballs, and then boom, like this, you get this magical idea. So I think that that part's attainable, but then there's what you do with it, right? So I think you can only teach people so much.
Yeah.
Right. So I think there are people who will forever, if you think of their skill as a bowl of fruit, they will always only have a bowl of fruit. Artists who create the culture, who create ideas that you haven't seen before, are like, they take that fruit and make it into preserves, right? That it's sweeter. There's something that they're after, that they don't just settle for what is there. They take it and do something else with it, right? So I feel like that is something that you can't teach.
Yeah.
Right. So almost like taking your talents and instead of just using them as is, using them as ingredients for other things.
Yeah. I like that.
That makes sense.
And it's like the talent. It's like I'm imagining like a seesaw of, like, you have the talent, but then do you also have the passion? And then, like, at one point, does it intermingle to the point where it's like, now this is why you're getting such a beautiful thing, because that passion and talent has
perfectly
matched
balanced.
each other.
Yes.
Right.
And that is that sweet spot.
Yeah.
Right. That is, I feel like there's this, it's almost like there's this flow of energy that is right above our heads.
Right.
And the only time we can tap into it is when we elevate ourselves, right?
Yeah.
And we're there.
Yeah.
And we're there, and we try to ride that for a while until it drops off, or until we finish the piece.
Right.
That's really what it is. But yeah, there's nothing like that.
Yeah, I agree.
And you can find it in nature too. To me, like, that's, if ever I need to return, I return through nature. Like, I love saturating my eyes with the trees and the grass and the the way the sun hits the color of a building and changes it gradually from top to bottom. And when you see a shadow, we're mostly taught that a shadow is black, but seeing it as a color is, those things that's heaven.
Wow.
It's nice.
Oh man. Yeah, that was beautiful. I'm sorry.
I got it if you want.
No.
Okay.
I was gonna say, so you wanted to ask him about school, like being a teacher?
So I was gonna go into that if you're ready.
Yeah.
Okay. So you talked about middle school and your art being kind of all over the city on the buses and things, I'm assuming that informed your later high school and college years.
Like you're assuming that it informed it, you said?
Right. Like so how did that influence your later years?
So I think I've always wanted my artwork to stand out because I was impressed by artwork that stood out. Like before I started painting, I would walk up to a painting that I really liked, usually very colorful, and I could see the painting in layers. I could see what the artist did, what the first color they put down, and then how they put a lighter one on the top, and then they switched the color, switched the tone, lighter, and put that on top. And like, so I'm dissecting paintings before I could see it. So, or before I could paint. So my goal was always to make a painting that you couldn't pass up. So I work with intense color, which pushes the painting to you, so to make you come in and look at it, right? So, and it's all about sharing, right?
Right.
That's why I don't believe those artists who say, "Yeah, I just create for myself. I don't really create for anybody else," because I think that to some degree you can rely on that because you have to trust yourself. So I don't want to take anything away from that. But there is a space where you are able to create what you love and then also tap into what people love and then find that sweet spot, right? So anyway, I've spent a lot of time chasing that. And I got to the point where I wasn't chasing it anymore. I wasn't mimicking the culture or mimicking art. I was producing things that had not previously been seen.
Right.
So to where you were to point to your question. I know I'm getting all over the place.
It's fine. But, it's perfect.
But I think that my art, my goal rather, was always to bring something that I could share and that everybody thought was beautiful, right?
Right.
But I have to think it's beautiful first. So I would just play in that. And so then I definitely wanted some popularity with my artwork. So I wanted to be famous. And every artist has whatever they like. My kids are all artists. And I tell them, like, if you want, like, my daughter's a singer. And like, if you want to be famous, that's why you're driven by, as a singer.
Right.
Fine. If you want to be attractive to guys, so you want to sing, fine. Like, whatever your reason is, run after that reason, do that, because eventually that passion will be yours, and it won't matter the reason that you previously, you'll have it, so for me, I started off wanting to be famous, right? I wanted my artwork to be known, not necessarily my face, and that's benefited me too. But that's fine,
right?
That's a perk. But people know my artwork before they know me, which is what I've always wanted.
That's nice. It must be kind of freeing to have that, like, basically have someone know more inside of you before they know what what they perceive of your physical being. That's
Well, it's almost as if, like, I remember this one time somebody was talking about that, like, your mind must be beautiful, right?
Right.
And I don't automatically jump on that, because that's not something that I want to say to myself, right? Because
right.
Arrogance can can damage what you're doing. And I always want to keep my creative process clean. But I understood what the lady meant when she said that. Mm-hmm. So for me, like taking an idea and putting it on the surface that came from my mind, and people saying, "Oh, that's beautiful," it makes me think I'm not crazy. Like my mind is, it's a beautiful place, and I know that for myself.
Right.
Just that's not always something that I want to indulge myself with.
Definitely.
But yeah, it does make me feel good to be able to take something from my mind and share it, and people say it's beautiful.
I think that's why like you have a hard time believing that somebody who is creating art doesn't want to share it, because it's like if they understand how beautiful it is, why not allow others to see that beauty as well, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, are you just being, what is the word, like nihilistic or something? Like, are you? Why would you not want to share? But I think that there's maybe some undertones of just insecurity. And what I was thinking about earlier was when you were saying, "Am I an artist?" I've never considered myself an artist, but I do see how when I write, it could be interpreted as art. And one of the most beautiful things to me is watching a movie, like an animated movie, because if you think about Spider-Man,
my favorite character,
Into the Spider-Verse.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So that to me, it's moving pictures, it's colorful, it's hand-drawn. Then you have the dialogue, you have the storyline, you have this collaborative effort to create this amazing moving painting with a story and characters. How could you not love that?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It's like that is like the pinnacle of art, and being creative and then collaborating, and like I feel the same way about music. It's just very inspiring. So when you can mix all of it together, you get this like beautiful thing.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's I love that art inspires art.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Like not too many things can do that. Right. But I love that part because I'm motivated by looking at other artists. Yeah. And I think it was maybe it was Picasso or somebody said he never comes up with ideas. He just steals other artists' ideas, right?
Yeah.
Which is I hope that's Picasso, but anyway, I get that, right?
Right.
Because I can watch a movie, listen to music, look at some artwork, at sculpture or some paintings, and just I come up with ideas. It's just like it,
right?
It inspires ideas. So poetry, it's all that's the same. It's just a different form.
Right.
That's really what it is. Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Artist.
Yeah. No. What is your gift?
I eat a lot. So I was thinking when he was talking about how he was so gifted in middle school, he was getting out of class, and I'm like, all I could do is like lie to my parents and say I was sick so I can get out of class.
Nah, you was a wrestler, bro. That's his gift. He's a wrestler.
Yeah,
there you go.
That wasn't a gift. That's it.
Now he goes and yells at other kids and tells them what to do.
That's
it.
See.
Yeah.
So all right, so you get to high school years, you're starting to realize that popularity is something that you're pursuing, which is okay, because there's also again that like recognition, that good job, like I like that too. In many ways, I think we want that reassurance, especially when you're being vulnerable and you're putting your art out there. You're like, what are they gonna say? Are they gonna give me a criticism? Whatever it might be. When do you start moving into your confidence? What would you say, like around what age or, what time of your life do you start feeling like, man, I'm getting compliments all the time. Like I must be doing something right.
Yeah. And I started getting compliments pretty early. Like I was even in middle school, I was the boy who could draw. Yeah. They didn't know my name. They said that boy who can draw. Right.
Right.
So, I've always gotten them.
Okay.
But I know that, like, I have my confidence about what I'm doing.
Mm-hmm.
but it's always a surprise to me still, right? How people react, and that's how I know, like, I enjoy it, but I don't buy into it.
Right.
So even now, I'm still at a point where I know I can be humbled, like, because I can go into an art gallery and see some work that just like makes mine feel like it's nothing, right?
Right.
So that can happen, but what I prefer is to walk into a gallery and be inspired when I see the work that it's so good that it's almost unattainable, right?
Right.
And then that's motivating, right? So
Absolutely.
it could go either way, really.
Yeah, that's definitely real.
Yeah.
Like they talk about, I was listening to something about talking about a skateboarding trick and how it almost always never happened before, and then they do it once, and then kids start doing it over and over, just for the simple fact that they seen that it was possible.
Yeah, right. Yeah, the possibility makes it real for you too.
Right.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, everybody wants to be like Steph Curry now that they've seen him play so much. They're like, oh, this we could do this. We could.
Now
do
they
it.
won't stop the shooting threes.
Right?
Yeah. It was like the NBA has changed. It was like, what did they do? They just started shooting a little bit more from
threes,
longer distance.
That's crazy.
But so all right. So what was your first like big sale or just a sale that you made that you were like, okay, I can do this for a living?
Yeah. So when I graduated from Xavier, I had somewhat of a following, right? I got my website together early, social media, and my career was built on social media and my website for the most part.
You want to
right?
share what year this is?
Oh, this
you
is.
You gonna date yourself?
I don't mind. This was like 98.
Okay.
When I was at Xavier, but I graduated in 2000.
Gotcha.
From Xavier University. So art major. I met my wife, got married, had a kid already, and then moved. After graduated from Xavier, became an art teacher. Now wait, what was the question? I just lost it.
Your first commission, basically.
Oh yeah, so yeah, my wife and I bought our first car. Right. Mm-hmm. It was a little blue wagon, beat up, car, but it was ours, right?
Right.
I think we spent like $1,000 on it or something like that, right? And we were driving. So I'm a teacher, so we were driving down Convention Center Boulevard, and there's this big wall. It's the Hilton wall. Did you know that on ramp that you get to when you're going to the Hilton?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Right above there. There's a mural that I did. And so I'm going to tell you how that mural got there. So I was making as a teacher, about $30,000 a year, which is nothing, right?
What were you teaching at this time? Art?
I was teaching, art to the gifted art students.
Okay.
Gotcha.
Right? Which was nice because
I
got to make my own schedule. But anyway, so my wife, who tends to be more business minded, was like, wouldn't a mural go nicely on that Hilton wall? And at the time, I'm a teacher. I'm like, this is the Hilton. They're not going to entertain me trying to do a mural on that wall.
Right.
So she put this letter together, sort of a, proposal letter. Mm-hmm. And I saw that she was serious. So I was like, all right,
Dang.
well, I went to the Hilton wall, took a picture of it, went in Photoshop and superimposed my work onto the pic. Printed it out because at the time that's what we were doing, right? So print stuff out, and then put it with her proposal as me, and then sent that in. And then the vice president of the Hilton called and was like, "Hey, I want to talk to you about doing a mural." I was like, "What?" I was floored. I mean, I couldn't believe it, right? This is a 100-foot wall. It's 100 feet by 41 feet. It's a huge
big
wall.
mural.
Yeah.
And what was it that you painted or were wanting to paint?
So I had to come up with a painting because it had gotten ahead of me. I just needed to come up with an idea. So I was like, I'm going to paint the city, do it like a sort of a cityscape. Well, my wife was like, how much do you want to do this mural for? Now at the time I hadn't sold anything for over like 5,000, which was a lot,
Right.
Even now, like for an artist, I felt like I was balling selling stuff
Of course.
for $5,000.
We would feel that way too.
Yeah.
Today. Crazy.
But so she was like, well, that's a 100-foot wall. What do you want to price it as? So I was like, I don't know, maybe like 10,000,
Right.
She was like, no, what? $10,000? That's like the size of 2 paintings. Look at this wall. So I was like, well, I don't know. What do you think? She said 50,000. I was like, there is no way I'm going in that office and telling the vice president of the Hilton $50,000.
You didn't know who you were yet, man.
No, I
Right.
no idea.
Terrance Osborne,
right?
bro.
Yeah. So
What's happening?
so anyway, I don't know how it happened, but in my meeting with him, it just rolled off my tongue. I said 50. We ended up doing the mural for $35,000, which was more than my teacher's pay that year.
Right.
Wow, dude.
So that was the first time that I made more money
7
with my
times the
artwork.
amount.
Yeah, right. And so that was the biggest job early on.
Oh no, because you said, all right. So I was saying 7 times the amount of 5,000 because
Of his
at that
his
time,
original artwork.
Yeah,
Right.
it was 5. So,
Yeah.
but you were going for 10, got 35 because your wife knows what's up.
Yeah.
She
It's funny
does,
how
yeah.
they always know us before
Yeah.
we kind of know us.
But I think that's their job, though. Like
Yeah.
like women have a tendency to push us a little further, than we are thinking we should go.
Right.
Because if men, like, if we buy a house, we want it's simple. We're not
Right.
trying to we want.
It's got walls.
Does it work? Utility. That's it.
No.
That's all
Exactly.
we want. But our wives are like,
Yeah.
nope.
I
nope.
heard this saying that I believe to be true is men look at women for who they are. Women look at the men for who they can be.
Could be. Yep.
And I think that I relate to that a lot because I feel the same. My wife is like encouraging me, and I'm like, I'm not there yet, whatever it is. It seems that's what happened with you. So
yeah, and it's
for
been
you.
happening. Yeah, that's I think that the wives who stay are the ones who offer something more than what the other ladies can give, right?
Right.
So 28 years later, here we are.
Yeah.
And she's
Absolutely.
done that.
So when did you meet
Beautiful.
your wife?
I met her in college.
Okay.
Yeah.
And she was like, she saw one of your paintings, was like, that's my man.
No, actually, I definitely was never one to have game. That was not. I couldn't talk to a girl. I mean, I could talk to them, but I didn't have a game to run. Right. It
Right.
was never my style.
Okay.
It was
Yeah.
like I think I was just a geek, right? I had an exhibition at a festival at Xavier at
Okay.
the time. And I was sharing a booth with my friend, and I had one side, he had the other. When my future wife walked in, she was looking at his artwork, and she thought that he had done all of it. But I was at the time, I was teaching him what I knew, so you could see my influence, right?
Right.
So it wasn't until after she left that she realized that my artwork was one. No, so she was interested, but
Before that.
yeah, before that. That's so she didn't care about the art,
Yeah.
But
She
yeah,
liked the
that's
face.
it.
She liked
Yeah,
the face.
yeah. She thought it was cute. She thought it was cute.
Yeah, you do have a good smile.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah,
You had braces before?
No, never
Calm
had
down,
braces.
calm
No,
down,
never
Victor.
had
It's all
braces.
right.
I saw a nice smile.
That's all right.
I had to pay for
Yeah,
mine.
I've been lucky, man. My teeth are just like extra straight.
Yeah.
I don't know. My daughter's teeth are like that too. So I think it's just genetic. I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know anybody else
I
in the
didn't
family.
get that, man.
You're good. You're
Nah, I
good.
didn't. I had to do like 16 years of braces.
Oh, the braces. Oh yeah.
Nah,
Yeah.
it wasn't 16 years, but it was too long.
Man,
It was too long.
that's that work. Those braces.
Yeah.
No
Yeah.
joke. Yeah.
All right.
But that's the formula that we've used from that point on. You know,
Right.
she would make the proposal. I would do the artwork, superimpose it, send it in, and we got job after job like that. It was great.
Absolutely. So, when did you? I would assume, since we're sitting here, you transitioned from a elementary school teacher to a full-time artist.
Yeah.
So, when did that happen, and how did that kind of come about?
So that mural that I did I did that in 2003, and Katrina hit in 2005.
Right.
So I still was too chicken to quit that job. I got that
even
that
doubling
bonus.
your salary.
Right. Yeah, because it was consistent.
Of course.
Had the benefits of being off during the summer, and then kids covered insurance, all that stuff. So 3 kids, so I couldn't gamble with that. But Katrina ended that job for me, right? So we moved to Georgia for 2 years, and there was this couple. Actually, I at the time when Katrina hit, we were hotel jumping. We didn't have a place to go, and this couple who had purchased work for me previously at Jazz Fest called and was like, "Hey, do y'all have a place to go?" We're like, "No." Well, we have an extra 3-bedroom home in a place called Ackworth, Georgia.
Okay.
If you guys want to come and stay for free, rent free, for some time. We're like, what? We went, and so we ended up staying there for 2 years. And I thought I'd be looking for a teaching job at that point.
Right.
But I never made it to looking for that teaching job because the jobs that I already had, I continued working on them, jobs tacked on the end of that, and it's basically kept going. So that was, and I thought that I would reach that point where I was only doing my art way later, like maybe when I was in my 60s or something like that. Because the 2 top artists at the time was George Rodrigue, the Blue Dog guy, right? And James Michalopoulos, the guy who does the Colorful Houses, right?
Right.
Which his work has influenced me too, right? My Colorful Houses. But anyway, so those guys I think they were in their 60s at the time, or 50s or something like that.
Okay.
And I just thought, well, when I'm that age, that is when I'm gonna, in my mind, I set it up that way.
Of course.
But Katrina was like, nope. You're going to do it now.
Right.
So I feel like at one point, my biggest honor was when people would mention me in the same breath with those 2 guys.
Right.
Yeah.
And that was great. That ever since then, I've been just doing my artwork.
That's so cool.
That is.
That's inspiring.
Teaching.
There's a lot of teachers that have that creative ability that gets dampened with just the monotony of like fulfilling your career as a teacher because you went to school to be a teacher, and then it's like you kind of stay stuck, and then you're in that 9-to-5 lifestyle until you retire, unfortunately.
Yeah. I mean, and look, it takes some guts to quit your job. It's like, I'm just going to do my artwork. So I know I don't know if I would still be teaching if Katrina hadn't hit. I might still be teaching, but I wouldn't have quit, or I wouldn't have ended my teaching job as early. I mean, maybe 10 years or something like down the line or something like that. But
when we were talking earlier for the pre-interview, you brought up Rodrigue and Michalopoulos, and I was looking at them before we came just to see like their artwork. I've seen the Blue Dog, but I haven't seen Michalopoulos' stuff, and it's so funny because it seems I could see the influence, and I can see like it almost is more George's color in the houses of Michalopoulos is kind of how I was like, oh, I could definitely see like how that has influenced you.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's well, James Michalopoulos is just a phenomenal artist, right? The way he works with color and shadow, and he does this all with a palette knife, which I've never been able to master. I'm always brush,
right?
And he whips these paintings out in no time flat, and so and they're usually big. And it's funny, when I was in college, I read an article that he had done the Jazz Fest poster, right? And the Jazz Fest poster, that's the highest grossing festival poster in the world.
Right.
To get it, it's a huge honor. Well,
absolutely.
He sold the original of that piece for $80,000. I was like, what? How do you sell one piece of artwork for $80,000? Right. So that was a goal for me, right? So it's interesting though, once I hit selling a painting for $80,000, I was like, oh, it's okay.
Right.
All right. Got some bills to pay.
Yeah.
You know,
Right.
so it doesn't cover everything, but
Exactly.
you know, it's a good cushion.
You traded
Right.
up that $1,000 car, huh?
For real. But anyway, so just a few years ago, he did the Jazz Fest poster. I think it was maybe two years ago or something like that. And he sold his original for $200,000. I'm like, goals again.
Absolutely.
Goals, yes, that's about to happen. So I haven't gotten up to that point, but I'm inching up. So
Man, listen, I've seen some stuff that it was just like abstract for so expensive, and I was like, I mean, it's cool, it's nice, but I was like, if I'm gonna spend that much money, it's got to look like something, right?
Yes. Oh, don't even get me started on that.
I'm not hating, by the way. Art is art, but like also there is something to be said when you're just throwing paint at a canvas and then and then you just let it dry versus spending hours drawing or painting this, beautiful thing. Like I'm looking at this from nothing painting as we're talking, and I'm just like, this is so cool. like just looking at this is such a cool thing to stare at while we're having a conversation.
Well, you know what? And I know what you mean by like, I'm not hating.
Yeah.
And you're not. You're not. So I think most people share your sentiment about that idea, right? And I think what they're selling is conceptual art. Right. It's like if you have a painting that has a little red dot in the corner, and then the next painting has a red dot in the bottom corner, and the next painting, the red dots looks like it's bouncing. And then so you keep going and you go all the way around the gallery. You got this paintings, right?
Right.
Aesthetically, they're not doing anything. It's like, it's just a red dot. But the artist played with a red ball only throughout their entire life. That's all they ever had. The only toy they ever had. If you don't know that backstory,
right, then
the art makes no sense.
Absolutely.
Or it's so complicated that when they explain it, you just become uninterested.
Yeah.
It's whatever the case. None of those two things work for me.
Right.
I'm not a fan of conceptual artwork. I like concepts, but I like art that when I look at it, I'm like, how or wow, right? So I'm not a fan of art that a child can do. Right. If you just sat with them for a half an hour, they could figure that out. Right. I like something that takes some amount of skill that like for instance, your style, an artist's style. An artist's style comes from repetition. It doesn't come from intending on bringing your artwork to do, like, say, I'm gonna do a yellow cat, like the blue dog, right? It's not gonna work. It's that's somebody else's stuff, and you're just doing the cat. I'm saying that because I realized that I tried to do that. I tried to do something that was like repetitive in a way where if I did it, people would recognize it. Right. But I was unhappy. I mean, I could blow my brains out just doing the same thing every time. Not that kind of repetition. Your style comes from continuing to do the same thing again and again, right? Like if it's painting, then you continue painting. You do a million of them again and again and again. Not the same thing, just doing it again and again. Eventually, somebody's going to say, "I recognize your stuff," right? Which is what happened with me. They're like, "I recognize your color," right? Like I know it from anywhere. So style can't be forced. It has to be created from you continuing to do what you love. Did I answer your question?
Sure.
I don't remember.
I don't know. I promise you, if it didn't, it was much better than what I intended. No, you did, because all I asked was, how did you, when and how did you transition from teacher to full-time artist? But we made it here.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It's funny because now I'm considered a corporate artist. And I've always thought that a corporate artist was a bad word, because, you're working for the man now, right? And I was working for the man when I first started doing corporate art, because I was desperate to keep the job, so I would do what they wanted.
Of course.
And I realized after a while, these corporate people are not artists. They want their stuff to work with their brand,
right?
And that's their job. That's fine. But now I'm at the point where if a company contacted me to do something, I would do like 30 sketches, trying to find what they wanted and show them all the sketches, and I'd be unhappy with that, right?
Mm-hmm.
So then I got smart eventually. I realized, like, they would often pick something I didn't even want to do. I was just sketching, just like throwing, shooting in the dark. I ended up going with one idea that I really loved and did different versions of that idea. So then they have to pick from just that.
Right.
So now I that's how I do it. It's like my corporate trick.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully none of my corporate partnerships don't hear this.
We'll cut that out.
But no, I mean, that makes sense. That's much better. I mean, because honestly, there's a choice paradox to begin with. So if you give them more choices, they're less likely to be happy with what they're going to pick anyway.
Right? Yeah.
So
that's that Gordon Ramsay philosophy.
No.
Less is more.
Less is more, yeah.
It's like, what is
Less
this
is
menu?
more,
There's
yeah.
too many things on this menu.
Right.
It goes crazy.
I've seen a TED Talk about
true.
that, about jeans, like how people were just so happy with the jeans they had to buy because those are the only ones they had. And then once they had more jeans, you're much more likely to go home and not like exactly, and you're like, I should have did, something else. But if it's only a couple of choices,
Yeah, no, I believe in that for sure.
It makes sense.
Yeah, so you start putting your work out there, you start getting noticed, and now your name is becoming bigger within New Orleans. Or is it getting bigger like nationally? Are you doing anything to get your art out to different states?
So my biggest jobs, I can say, to at least the jobs that I got the most recognition for, are my Jazz Fest posters. So, my mentor, Richard Thomas, the guy who introduced me to paint, and James Michelopoulos and George Rodrigue all did Jazz Fest posters. So I was like, that's what I want to do. Right. So I did my first Jazz Fest poster in 2007. And then, Jazz Festival, if they like what you were producing, then they are going to call you again to do it. Right.
Right.
So then 2010, after that first was Rebirth, image of Philip, the Rebirth founder, the bass horn, and then Uncle Lionel with the bass drum, then Trombone Shorty, which was the biggest one to date.
Yeah.
And that was the official Jazz Fest poster, because the other two were Congo Square posters, which are sort of given to the up and coming artists. So 2012 marked my established artist position, right? With the Shorty poster. And then I did 2014 was the Preservation Hall one. And then 18, I believe, was Fats Domino. Yeah. And then the last one I did was the John Batiste one, that was the most successful one out of all of them.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because my two best posters for Jazz Festival, and they both sold out, were paintings of Noka artists. So Trombone Shorty and John Batiste.
Wow,
yeah, right.
So cool,
so now that was the first time a Noka artist painted a Noka artist.
Right.
So, those are great. And the Jazz Fest poster, I can't talk enough about it. The Jazz Fest poster makes artists. It gives them a career. So,
right.
Yeah, some artists might not say that, but it's true. It's really what it does. There's a guy named Buddy Brimberg who created the Jazz Fest poster for the most part, because before him there was no festival poster that was considered like a collectible piece of artwork.
Gotcha.
That once he came up with that, then it was official. It's like it's artwork.
Wow.
Before that, it was just like, stamp it on the pole,
right, like an event poster.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah. So he's a father of the festival poster, and every artist that does the Jazz Fest poster works with him.
That's so awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Well, congrats on that, man. That's such an accomplishment. Like to be a local kid that just aspired to do all these great things, and now you're doing it and living it. Especially like with the murals and just putting your artwork out there, is such an incredible thing to see. And now hear the story of the person behind the brush. It's just really cool to even just be able to talk to you about all of this. So what would you say for any inspiring artists right now, whether local or just in general, that are having a hard time with their art? What would you encourage them to do?
Yeah, I would say if you're an artist and you're just starting out and you're trying to get your work going, social media is definitely the way to go. So I would say take your artwork and post it and put a price under it. Now for most artists that's hard to do because
right.
It's like you don't want to get rejected and all that stuff, but it breaks you out of that shell, and you need all of that. Even if the constructive criticism is negative,
right?
You need all of that. So that gets people talking. It gets people familiar with their artwork. The second thing is probably the most important thing. That is, and you've heard it before, but be true to yourself. So every artist has a language. If you walked into my gallery and you saw one piece in here, you might get some idea of where I'm headed.
Right.
But if you walked in here and saw all of them, I don't have to be here. You can walk through and understand something about what I'm doing and why I'm doing it and what I like and what I don't like, right?
Right.
What I enjoy. And it's because it's a language. It's, every artist has a different language, right? So one piece is a paragraph in your language. So there's nothing more important than expressing your language as an artist.
Absolutely.
So you have to work, create that body of work and keep it high. Like starts falling, get to work, and just keep promoting it when it gets high. I think that's a good formula.
And just believing in yourself, right? Because or having somebody who believes in you to encourage you to put the right price tag on it.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Marry somebody who is the business, because artists do not like doing business.
Yeah.
And that'll help, because that person will always have your back, like no one else will, really. And we need that as artists until we're able to do it ourselves.
Right. You're talking about your language, and artists have a language. As a developed artist and a full-time artist, was there anything recently, now that you have your gallery, and is there anything that's changed that language, or does that language shift at all?
So yeah, there was a few years ago I did ayahuasca.
Okay.
Right? So, and I've done ayahuasca about 6 times. So ayahuasca is basically a spiritual brew that the shaman, you'll see it sometimes, it's become commercialized a little bit too. So you'll see a shaman sitting in a circle, and he's passing around this brew to everybody, and they drink it,
right.
And then they go into some type of trance, right?
Mm-hmm.
It sounds like some scary stuff, right?
Absolutely.
It is. So you go through heaven and hell, and everybody's experience is different. It's not like alcohol, where for the most part,
right.
It's about, everybody gets about the same experience.
Mm-hmm.
This stuff, it's like if you if you have some issues, alcohol tends to, you could turn away. You drink, you can kind of turn away from your problems, right?
Right.
With ayahuasca, when you turn your head away from your problem, it turns with you.
Wow.
Right? It stays right there. So you have to face it.
Damn.
And that's scary. Well, anyway, you go through I went through all of that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I was afraid that my artwork would change before I did it. I thought, I don't want to be painting tie-dye stuff when I'm,
Right.
I didn't want that. But I realized that it's way more subtle than that. I think that ayahuasca gives you courage, right? So I started from that point on. I started putting houses on people's heads and things like that,
right?
Which is sort of my style right now. People recognize that, but it wasn't until I did ayahuasca that I came up with those ideas, which to me seemed bold. Like,
right.
It was a bold move. Most people, they're just familiar with it. It's charming.
Right.
But it was a nice transition for me.
That's
so
good.
Ayahuasca pretty much didn't change your language, but it just added more words to your what
exactly
what you could speak and
Makes
interpret.
sense.
That's it. Yeah, I would say that for sure.
That's really cool. Yeah, I'm terrified to do ayahuasca, but I've heard great things. I know it's like a Peruvian drink or whatnot, but I can't say that I know too much about it. But so you feel like it did obviously help you step into like, being more courageous with your art. With putting houses on people's heads. Is there anything else that you feel like it inspired within you?
Well, like I said, it's like it gives you courage. Mm-hmm. I wouldn't say it gives it to you because you have to do the work. It doesn't fix anything.
Right.
It's you going through the motions of the psychedelics and you facing yourself. That then once you do something like that, it's just terrifying, and then you move through these spaces of being terrified and being in heaven back and forth, right?
Right.
And once you're out of that, you're like, I mean, that was the worst thing I've ever experienced. I can take on putting a house on somebody's head.
Right.
You see what I mean? It's like,
absolutely.
Yeah, it's like that.
It kind of, so you say it brings your troubles to the forefront. It kind of shows you the things that are important and kind of shows all the other things that you deal with are not even that big a deal. Like putting a house on somebody's head seems a monumental task, but when you're faced with, like you said, heaven and hell, when you're coming out, you're like, shit, let's do it.
Yeah, right. And I mean, some people, like if they're not artists, they may be unhappy with the way that their life is going. Maybe they're in a marriage that they're not happy with. They come back home from an ayahuasca trip and they leave their spouse, or they make these changes in their lives, and that's really what it is. It's triggering you to be conscious of what you need and to find what's going to make you ultimately happy,
Right.
Mm-hmm. So I guess this is more like emotionally, but would you say you're like an emotional artist? Does your inspiration change and like what you're working on based on kind of what you're going through on a day to day?
Well, that's a good question. Typically I paint whatever is in my life. So I put my family in my work. I project New Orleans and the culture. Right. I often say that if I was born on a farm, I'd be painting cows and chickens and, barnyards and stuff like that. So I don't know what else I would do anyway. It's like, I have to do what I know.
Absolutely.
And I wouldn't be happy any other way, really.
I got you.
Mm-hmm.
You have any other questions?
No, I mean, you can tell that you're happy. and not only through our conversation and our interaction, but through this beautiful artwork. There's no way I couldn't see a person that's not happy making this beautiful of art. Yeah. So that's amazing. And it just seems like it's just because throughout your life you just become more you and genuinely you. Mm-hmm. And I appreciate that. I appreciate it for New Orleans. And thank you very much for having us and doing This Is Hard, because everybody needs to hear a story like yours.
Yeah, I agree. I think that when I met you the first time, you didn't know me at all. I think that your connection to New Orleans is not just that you're here in the physical. It's the connections you're also having encounters with just people who appreciate art. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I believe you were painting when we came in. You were painting that day. And I thought that was so cool. I was just like, dang, this is the owner? Like this is the guy. I mean, these are like the untouchables in a way, especially when you're seeing the art. So I definitely appreciated our conversation enough so that I was like, man, this guy fits into this mold of like what This Is Hard is, which sometimes can be confused for, somebody going through a hard time, or, this is one of those stories that This Is Hard is also about something being really amazing. Right. This is hard in the sense of this is amazing stuff that you're doing. Yeah, right, being able to sit here with you today and experiencing this whole journey. I'm glad that, our paths crossed and that you allowed us the opportunity to come and do this with you. It means so much to us for us to be here with you today.
Definitely, yeah. Well, I appreciate that, I love people, so that's it. That's an easy one for me. Like, when I first opened the gallery, I said, I know what I want, right? I visited galleries before in other cities, and I always thought it was too sterile. It was like you feel like you're not invited. Mm-hmm. It's the walls are white.
It's like a museum almost.
Yeah, it's like you can't touch anything. Yeah. It's you just
don't take pictures.
Don't take pictures. Right, all of that. So I said, all right, when I open my gallery, I want people to feel invited. I don't want that. Right. So I made it appeal to the senses. So you smell lavender when you walk in. You hear music playing. The visual is the art part. Right. The art's interactive. There's this large beanbag in the middle of the floor that you have to get on, right? And then there's candy dishes around, so that covers all the senses.
Absolutely.
So that is to make everyone feel comfortable when they walk in. They don't realize that psychologically I'm holding them here,
right,
to make them comfortable. But it's all a part of it. Like I said, I enjoy being around people. I enjoy talking to them. And then I decided I was gonna be here. Like I used to be here every day at the gallery, but then we hired an employee, and so I'm here actually still 2 days out of the week. Gotcha. Because I never want to completely separate myself. Because I enjoy, people might enjoy the artwork when they come in, but I enjoy people that come in. Right. I enjoy explaining my artwork to them and hearing, what they're thinking, and when they're inspired, it's like that inspires me. I love it.
All right, man. Well, thank you so much for being on This Is Hard and giving us an opportunity to speak with you.
Man, y'all had great questions. It was a good conversation. I appreciate it.
Awesome. I appreciate you.
Thank you, brother.
What time is the gallery open so people can stop by?
So my gallery's open almost like an extended weekend, right?
Okay.
It's open from Thursday to Monday.
Gotcha.
From 11 to 5.
So Rocky and I are on our way to do an interview for This Is Hard, and I'm just excited.
man. I'm going to this interview, and I just wish I wasn't so alone. I wish I could find somebody to be with me, you know, maybe to be my wingman, to be my cool daddy, you know. Oh, how you doing, man? You ready?
Yeah.
Me too.
Style can't be forced. It has to be created from you continuing to do what you love.
This has been a Rocky and Vic production. Say something, Rocky.